subway systems and stuff like
the
that.
everyday subway systems, I mean, I've ridden them in many cities, whether in Europe or the United States, England. I've traveled over the years, as I'm sure you have. And I would say the fastest train I've ridden underground maybe went 55 or 60 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I know the one in Japan, which is above ground, I think is like 260 or something.
I've ridden some high-speed trains in Europe, and they are fast. I rode the train. I've ridden the train from Paris down to the Mediterranean, and man, it gets it. It really zooms along. There's nothing like it in the United States.
Yeah, but it's still on a track. It's not a free-floating system.
No, it's not maglev. Now, as I observed earlier, there are maglev trains, but they're not in the United States, or at least not publicly, not available to the public. There are maglev trains in Japan and now in China, and I believe, well, I know the Germans are working on it, and they have a test facility in Germany where they've had some pretty fast trains, but no, not in the United States. The technology, though, is proven. It does work, and the Germans, Japanese, and Chinese are the ones that are on the cutting edge of it, but that's not happening here in America. I would say, with regard to what you were saying earlier, that there's another figure, well-known figure from the aerospace world, also in the United States by the name of Michael Minovich. And interestingly, Michael Minovich was the guy who, as a graduate student, back in the 1960s, I believe, was working at JPL and as an intern or something like that in a co-op agreement, and he came up with the system of equations that enabled not only NASA but other space agencies to send deep space probes to the outer planets such as Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, so forth, Neptune, etc. Before that time, it wasn't understood how to get probes there because rocket technology is not very efficient. And to overcome the pull of gravity, not only of the Earth, but of the Sun, and to get probes way out into the outer reaches of the solar system back in the 50s and early 60s was not well understood. But what he did was come up with a concept by which you could use the gravity well of a planet, any planet, such as the Earth, the Moon, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and other planets, to slingshot probes using the gravity of any planet or planetoid out and further into the deeper reaches of the solar system. And he worked out a series of equations, which were very involved and complex, that made this possible. And the mathematics that he developed decades ago is still used today. I'm sure it's just a little more refined, but he was the one who worked out the first set of equations. Now, interestingly, he also went on in the 1970s to use a similar mathematics, only in the context of a high-speed underground tube shuttle train that again would ride on a magnetic levitation field. But in this case, unlike his earlier equations, which used the gravity field of a planet or moon, any moon or any planet, to move spacecraft in outer space, his new equations, or his new design, was intended to move craft, in this case a train, in inner space, inside the Earth. But it's the same concept. You're still using the gravitational pull of planet to propel a craft across a distance, only in inner space in this case and not outer space. So what he would do in his patent is to start up a train underground and on a magnetic field, levitated on a magnetic field, down the slope of an underground tunnel that would slope down for miles until it reached a depth of 3, 4, 5 miles and a cruising speed of about 700 miles per hour through a tunnel from which the air had been partially evacuated, so you wouldn't have air friction. And it would ride on this magnetic field zooming along at several hundred miles per hour deep underground, and by deep underground, I mean miles underground. And then, as it neared its destination, the tunnel would slope back up at just the right gradient to slow this craft down using the pull of gravity again, till it cruised into its destination station and came to a rest at like half a mile per hour or slower. And it's the concept is beautiful in its elegance and simplicity. So his patent is out there, and Michael Minovich's patents, there are several of them. Anyone can research his name on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office's online database and find those patents. So those are some of the kinds of designs that are out there in the public realm. And it's interesting to note that once Michael Minovich's system was excavated and built and put into use, it wouldn't use much external power. Because of the way that it's designed, it would virtually power itself. And the kinetic energy that the train built up as it was zooming down slope through these tunnels miles underground that could extend for hundreds of miles, it would build up kinetic energy that it would then feed back into the system as it climbed back up the opposite slope to its destination station. And all of this could take place underground. You would never see it. If such a system has been built, there need not be any outward indication on the surface in between the stations. And the stations themselves could be built underground. So indeed, as you can see, Joe, if this was done with black budget money, technology, and personnel, it could be done almost 100% out of the public eye.
Well, you know, somebody had just wrote in. Matter of fact, it's a German gentleman, Herman, had asked how I'm probably pronouncing his last name wrong. He wanted to know, because he agrees that he thinks there's a lot of underground facilities in the United States, but what he was asking was how can they hide the debris, you know, from making large facilities and large tunnels?
Easily. And this question is often asked. It's a good question. It's a logical question, and the answer is it can very easily be hidden. And here's how. Especially if you confuse the construction of an underground system, for example, with a major mining operation, whether it is a strip mining operation or major deep mining operation. You can just mix the debris in with the rest of the material that's being excavated by the mining operation. You see what I'm saying? And so in that way, you just mix it in, you bring it out. You can sell it grind it up and sell it as gravel or sand if you want to in the construction industry for use in cement and concrete. Many underground installations I've noticed are located not far from major quarrying, mining operations. So that's one way you can do it. Another way is by conducting the secret underground construction, whether it's for a base or for a tunnel system, in concert with another major civil engineering project, such as construction of a huge hydroelectric project, or a construction of tunnels, aqueducts for carrying water, or for a major highway construction project. I don't know, Joe, but I would guess that when the interstate highway system was constructed in the United States back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that would have been a very opportune occasion to also carry out other construction projects which would have involved, you know, the coming and going of a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of excavation and blasting and drilling, not only for tunnels, but for cuts through highway passes and construction of bridges and so forth, and even in some cases tunnels under bodies of water, such as the Inner Harbor of Baltimore, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and so forth, which themselves could have served as covers for the construction of undersea or underwater bases. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you brought